If you're trying to stay consistent with your nutrition, but you are a busy mom and you somehow find yourself eating bites of your kids' food all day, this one's for you. I'm personally heading into what I'm calling a 6-week lock-in, which is really just dialing everything in nutrition-wise. So I'm not just going to be tracking my food, I'm going to be making sure that I'm staying consistent with tracking. That means no extra little bites, no random licks of peanut butter here and there, because ultimately I know that those things do add up. And my goal is to really lean out, gain muscle, keep muscle, but also gain it and just feel good for the upcoming summer. I know that the only way I can do that by working full time and having 2 kids is by meal prepping and having everything ready to go. So this week I'm using my 2 protein meal prep system for dinners to make everything as simple as possible. And for breakfast, I'm going to be doing the ultimate volume hack for oatmeal, which is adding egg whites. It packs a protein punch and makes your oats just super creamy. I look forward to it every morning when I get up. And then for lunch, I'm doing another volume hack, which I love doing these volume hacks during these sort of reset weeks. It just helps you feel satiated without adding a ton of calories and carbs and fats if that's something that you're trying to look to decrease. So I'm going to be doing a buffalo chicken cauliflower bake. It is so tasty. You have no idea the cauliflower is even in there. And again, it is just really satiating to have for lunch. Then for dinners, we've got, like I said, ground beef and chicken breast as our main proteins, and then 2 carbs, sweet potatoes, and rice. I'll be mixing and matching all of these components to make 4 very different dinners. The first dinner, we're doing a ground beef sweet potato bowl with cottage cheese, avocado, and honey. It's so tasty. We look forward to this one. It's definitely become a staple in our house. And then we're doing a maple chicken bowl with some crispy sweet potatoes, and then a ground beef and broccoli stir fry, as well as a high protein queso chicken bowl with a sneaky ingredient to make it high protein. Everything is set up so I'm not overthinking it. So if you're also in a busy season, but you're still looking to be consistent or lean out, continue to watch this video to know how to eat high protein, have everything prepped and ready to go so that you're not starting from zero every day. Let's get started. For this week's menu, we've got protein oats and buffalo chicken cauliflower bake on repeat all week. And then we've got a ground beef sweet potato bowl on Monday, the queso chicken on Tuesday, maple chicken sweet potato bowl on Wednesday, and then on Thursday, ground beef and broccoli, of course, using the shared proteins and shared carbs. Starting with the essentials, and this is the part that makes everything else during the week just feel really easy. Since I'm in this little 5 to 6 week lock-in right now, I'm just focusing on keeping things high protein, really simple, and then using volume and flavor to keep meals interesting and not complicated. So for protein this week, I went with chicken breast and ground beef, and the chicken is doing a lot of the heavy lifting. In the morning, I just threw a bunch of chicken breast straight into the crock pot with garlic salt and onion powder. Nothing fancy at all. This is very much a set it and forget it situation while I'm working and just with the kids. So once it's done, I pulled out more than half of it for my lunches, and this is what I'll use for my buffalo chicken cauliflower rice bake, which is one of my favorite volume meals because you can make a really big portion for not a ton of calories. Then I left the rest of the chicken right in the crock pot for dinner and just shredded it directly in there for my high protein queso chicken. So at this point, one protein's already basically fully prepped for 2 different meals. Then for my second chicken dinner, I took the remaining uncooked chicken breasts and cooked those on the cast iron. I just kept the seasoning simple again with garlic salt. And this is where the flavor comes in. I made a quick maple sauce with maple syrup, soy sauce, and a little bit of cornstarch to thicken it up. And once you pour that into the pan, it thickens up and caramelizes into the yummiest, stickiest sauce. It honestly feels like a completely different meal, even though it's the same protein base. And that's kind of the whole goal here, just keeping the prep really simple up front, and then using different flavors to make it feel like you're not eating the same thing over and over again. Next up is my ground beef, and this is probably the easiest part of the whole prep. I'm just cooking it down in a pan with really simple seasoning. Again, garlic salt, onion powder, nothing too specific because I want this to work for multiple meals. This is going to be used for my beef and broccoli and my ground beef sweet potato bowls, so keeping it neutral like this gives me a lot of flexibility later in the week. And once it's cooked, I'll just drain and store it, and then on weeknights, it's all about how I season it and what I pair it with. One night I'll get a little more of a savory soy-based flavor with the beef and broccoli, and another night I can go more of the taco style or bowl style with toppings. This is one of the biggest things that's helped me stay consistent is just having protein ready to go so I'm not starting dinner wondering like what I need to defrost and what we're going to be eating for dinner. For carbs this week, I kept it really simple again with sweet potatoes and rice, and sweet potatoes are something you see me use all the time. They're super filling, they have a good amount of fiber, and they just keep you satisfied, especially when you're in a calorie deficit. Plus, I just think that they're delicious. They also reheat really well, which makes them perfect for meal prep. I just chopped them into small to medium cubes for this week, and I spread them out on a parchment lined baking sheet and bake them until they're cooked through. I'm not taking them too far or getting them super crispy because I know I'm going to reheat them throughout the week. And if they're too crispy now, then they kind of get hard later. So I just keep them a little bit softer, let them cool completely, and store them in a glass container in the fridge. And then during the week, I just reheat them, pair them with whatever protein I'm going to be using, and add the different sauces or toppings to switch things up. And this week, we're going to make those ground beef sweet potato bowls, and then the maple chicken, which I will pair with these sweet potatoes. For my second carb this week, I went with rice, and I love using my Instant Pot for this because it cooks in 3 minutes. So it just makes it so easy to batch a big portion without really thinking about it. And this week, I actually split the rice in half to give myself a little bit more variety. For one half, I kept it plain so I can use it for the beef and broccoli later in the week. And then the other half, I turned it into a really simple cilantro lime rice to go with the high protein queso chicken. You just add some freshly chopped cilantro, some lime juice, a little bit of onion powder and salt, and mix it all together. It's such a small step, but using these fresh ingredients makes a huge difference in flavor, and it instantly makes the meal feel completely different. And that's the kind of goal, taking the same base ingredients and just slightly changing them so you don't feel like you're eating the same thing all week. Super simple, but it goes a long way. For my repeatable breakfast this week, I went with quick oats with egg whites, and this is honestly my favorite volume hack, especially right now while I'm in this little lock-in. It basically triples the volume of your oatmeal without really increasing the calories, so you end up with a lot, much like just a bigger, more filling breakfast that still fits your goals. And if you're someone who tends to snack or grab bites of things throughout the morning, this just helps a lot with that. The biggest thing here is you have to use quick oats. Rolled oats just don't break down the same way and can end up giving you almost like a scrambled egg in your oatmeal, which is not great when you add the egg whites. So if you only have rolled oats, you can actually blend them a little bit to process them and they'll work just fine. So I start by cooking the oats with water like normal, and once they're going, I slowly add in egg whites. You don't want to dump them in all at once, just kind of stir as you go so it incorporates smoothly. I did about half a cup of egg whites for every half a cup of oats, I believe, but you can definitely adjust depending on how much protein you want and the consistency. Just added a little bit of cinnamon, mixed everything together, portioned it into glass containers, and then when you reheat, it stays really creamy. You can add a little bit of almond milk or your milk of choice, and it's super filling and honestly just makes breakfast feel like a real meal instead of something small that leaves you hungry like an hour later. I'm not gonna lie, but I've always been a little skeptical of nonstick cookware, and I feel like I've just gone through so many pans that just don't hold up. But Caraway sent me a set a few weeks ago, and I've been using them daily, and I can confidently say I'm in love. They're not just really pretty, they actually work. Like everything just glides off. I barely need any oil, and cleanup is so easy. And what I really love is that they're made without harmful chemicals, no toxins, so I feel good cooking for my family. Honestly, these have officially replaced all my old pans, and if you've been thinking about upgrading your cookware, you can use code MEALPREPMOM at checkout for 10% off. For lunch this week, like I mentioned earlier, I made a buffalo chicken cauliflower rice bake, and this is another one of my go-to volume meals. I just use the cauliflower rice packs from Costco, and I love these just because they're super easy and you just microwave them. They're organic. The texture is really good in my opinion. Then I took the chicken that I had made in the crock pot earlier and I used a little bit more than half of it for this. I shredded it up, added it right to the cauliflower rice, and then mixed in some buffalo sauce. I just used Frank's and some non-fat Greek yogurt to make it creamy and high protein. And there's no real recipe here, I think. Just kind of mix everything together until it looks right. Then I portioned it out in 2 glass containers and added a little shredded cheese on top of each and baked them for a bit. Step is definitely optional, but I like doing it because it melts the cheese and just makes it feel like a little bit more of a complete meal. And this is one of those meals that just packs a ton of protein without a lot of carbs, which I love during these lock-in weeks. It's super filling, really easy to reheat, and just makes it so much easier to stay consistent during the day. For dinner, I made a high protein queso chicken, which honestly, after I was done with all this, dinner was pretty much ready for the night that we are going to have it because it was just a matter of heating it up. But I took the shredded chicken that I had left in the crock pot and built the sauce right into that. For the queso, I used cottage cheese, taco seasoning, and a little bit of shredded cheese. And this is one of my favorite ways to just get something really creamy while still keeping it high in protein. I was originally going to blend this in my Ninja, which I love, but then when I turned it on, it made the weirdest noise and I thought it broke. Turns out I just needed a new blade attachment, so that has been handled. But in the moment, I just moved everything over to the food processor and it worked totally fine. I blended that up until smooth, and it just makes this creamy sauce, and added it straight into the crock pot with the chicken. Once it's all mixed together, I toasted up some corn in a pan with a little bit of garlic salt just to add a little bit of texture and flavor. And that was it. Super simple, really satisfying, and one of those meals that feels a little elevated even though it took barely any effort. All right, that's everything for this week's prep. This is exactly how I'm keeping things simple during this little lock-in, focusing on the basics, adding volume where I can, and then just switching up flavors so it doesn't feel repetitive. Nothing here is complicated, but having this done makes the biggest difference during the week. If you want the full menu and prep list, it's linked down below, and I'll see you in the next one where we turn all of this into easy weeknight dinners.